difficulties tonight. I don't know. Technical difficulties. Welcome, everyone. Appreciate you coming on the channel to check this out. I'm going to read over the results. I went through the results that were posted, wrote everything down. If I butcher your name, I apologize in advance. If I can't read my writing, I apologize in advance because I ran out of crayons. But I'm just going to kind of do a recap on Saturday's and Sunday's results. Laura's here to give us her perspective from the corner worker side of it and how round one went. And then we've got Mr. Eli Block, who we are looking forward to see this season between the Classic and his Moto America endeavors. We're looking forward to that. So, and the rest of you guys can all go eat a bag of dicks, period. I invited everybody to come on here, and if you don't want to come on here, oh well. And that's how I feel about it this evening. I did reach out to some of the photographers, and Robert and Scott sent me a bunch of photos, so I put that in a little video. I don't know if that's what was causing my technical difficulties and why we were getting started, but we got 10 people there. If you look in the chat, there's a link if you want to join and talk about your round one. It's in the chat, and you can click that, set up the camera and microphone, and come on. And first thing I'm going to do is we're just going to talk a little bit about round one and how it went before I get into the results. So, Laura, you've been doing this for a minute or two anyway, and I'm sure you've been very, very many round ones. In comparison to some of the other round ones, how do you think this one went from a corner worker's standpoint?
I had more corner workers for this round one than I've had in a long time. April is hard for me to get corner workers because kids are in school, and this one in particular was the weekend between Massachusetts school vacation and New Hampshire school vacation. So a lot of people with school-age kids were on vacation. But I had more people this year than I have in years past. And I think from the corner workers' perspective, I think it went pretty well. Friday was a little bit of a disaster with the oil and that issue there. And it's kind of bizarre. I've noticed that when Friday is a bit of a disaster, you guys calm down for Saturday and Sunday. It's like you get it out of your system or something. And then sometimes if Friday is really, really quiet, then I get nervous because then I don't know when you guys are going to start to act up. But I think, the rest of the weekend went pretty well. I mean, we didn't roll too many ambulances. We had a few red flags, but nothing major. The corner workers were not happy when 5 of you decided to fall down in 4 different places at the same time. But other than that, I think it all went pretty well.
All right, very good. Well, I'm glad to hear that. My round one ended on Friday. Eli can attest to that because he stopped on the side of the track and was looking over at me to make sure I was up and moving and okay. And I think I just lost my front end because I think the oil spill happened right behind me. And because that's when I saw that motard go flying all the way up and hit the NASCAR wall. And then another bike went up there and went between the NASCAR wall and his bike. And I'm caught in the grass between 11 and NASCAR. And I turn around and look, and there's bikes crashing everywhere. And I was like, oh, geez, probably not a good place to be standing. But Eli, kudos for checking on me, brother. I appreciate it.
No problem. That's part of the job.
I also, and that was pretty much the end of it. I did bruise some more ribs. I kind of dragged my chest across those gator backs, and those are not very forgiving. They're really high, and they got sharp edges on them. So they kind of bang you up a little bit. Broke off a handbar and ground down a peg and all that good stuff. So, Eli, how did your round one go?
It's cold. Didn't have enough jackets. I was wearing on Saturday. I think on Sunday I was wearing 7 jackets, and it was not enough. I woke up on Sunday morning, looked outside the window, and looked at my dad and said, "I'm not going out there." But overall weekend was a new weekend for me. I had to learn a whole bunch of new things. My bike had about 20 more horsepower than last year. So this thing's like a super bike instead of a 600 now. So it's a whole learning curve. Suspension setup's different, and I didn't have enough time on Friday to test. Like we were building my 400 because it was still not built for my crash at Summit. So we were building that in the garage on Friday, and I only had 4 sessions on, what was it, Friday to get some type of testing in, and it's just between the green track and all the oil laid down, and it just wasn't a good recipe for getting some good time on the seat. So, other than that, the weekend was okay. GT, I just had a fun little battle with Renee. We were just going by, waving at each other down the straightaway. I think some guy got a photo of us just looking at each other, waving on the straightaway. I had we put the wrong front. What?
I forgot to put the bacon in.
Okay, thank you.
It's on the side.
Thank you. Got food delivery. So, what was I saying? Oh, so we put on the wrong front sprocket for the race. I was running an 18 instead of a 17. So I was trying to figure out on Friday why I had no drive on the thing, on the 400. I was like, Dad, it feels like it's falling flat on its face out of the corner, and then it picks up RPM. So he's like, maybe the map's wrong, yada yada. And we started counting again, and it turns out we forgot how to count. So mistake on my part for not checking. And so we figured that out, and I was close on that race. 500 race. I did actually a back-to-back GT this weekend. So I went from the 400, parked it on pre-grid, and then hopped straight on my 600 that was already parked on pre-grid, back out to the GT. So I won the GTU or the whole overall of the race from the second row or second wave, whatever they call it. I think it's the GTO wave first, then GTU. So I won from the GTU wave. It was a really good race. It was my first ever time doing like a GT on a 600, so that was fun. And 500 Super Sport race, the money race for Kawasaki. I had like a 6-second lead before the red flag, 5 or 6 second lead, and then I guess Rebecca Mascaro told me that they were 15 seconds away from ending the whole entire race when the red flag came. It was like the leader was right about to come around, and they had to do a restart. But during the restart, my Dunlops got cold in the front on my 400, and going into 1A, I lost it for the first time in 6 years. I crashed in 1A. So picked it up a little bit pissed, ran 17 after. I picked it up, went fastest I went all weekend on the 400. And then in the dash, I was waiting on pre-grid, and it was 39 degrees track temp before we went out for the dash. 39 or 40 degree track temp. I'm waiting on the grid, and I'm like, first gear, pop it in there when the 2 board goes up, and I'm waiting. Everyone's looking around like, what's happening? Then Jimmy Rich jumps over. I look over, and he unzips my suit, throws a transponder on my suit. I'm like, God, I forgot my transponder because I was on my 400. I was like, I've never had to do this before. And I was like, and I went through like the first lap, and I was like, wow, this is really uncomfortable. And then Scott Hussey got a photo of me when I hit the bump in turn 10, and I lost the front. And the thing just started getting tank slapper, and I landed chest straight to the tank with the transponder on my rib. So I snapped a rib during the race on lap 3. So I raced the rest of the race. It was only an 8-lap race, luckily. So lap 3, I snapped my rib, and then I thought I had it cruised in, and I was wrong. Sweeney ran such an amazing race from the back row, and I just couldn't get under 14 to save my life. So once he got in front of me and gave me a tow down to the 14s, or down to the 13s again, it was definitely helped me. My confidence was definitely low. I was a little bit angry. I was angry with myself after the race, but learning curve on the 600. It's my 5th round on it now, and I went faster on my first round, but it is what it is.
And don't forget your transponder.
Yeah, don't forget your transponder. Don't forget that if you have a wrong number on the bottom of your bike, that you get disqualified.
Yeah, it probably helps if the numbers match all the way around.
Yeah, sorry, Laura.
It makes it a little bit easier, but then again, it takes away from from some of the craziness for the first round. I actually felt good getting there on Friday, but that I'm not even going to talk about it anymore. I know. I think Ian's in a contest with me right now because he broke. What did he break? T12. T12 and L1. He broke the process on 2 vertebrae and broke some ribs. I had all those bruised ribs and 3 vertebrae, but mine were a little bit higher up. So I think we got a competition going to see who's going to break the most bones this year.
I'm coming through right now.
I'm all done for this year.
Can we work on this more like a golf score, please?
Maybe.
We could try. I was thinking about maybe bringing some barbecued ribs to round 2. So I could bring them over to Ian's pit, over to his garage. Just
I'm not far behind you right now. I'm being my MRI this week to see if I've cracked my L5 in half for my crash in Summit. So
that's been a while ago.
That was 4 or 5 weeks ago. Pain still has not gone away. I've just been waiting. I thought it was just going to go away as like a muscle thing. And then the more it kept on lingering, the more I thought, it might be a bone. And I finally got an x-ray after 5 weeks last Thursday. So we'll see. I get my MRI this week probably. And hopefully I'm not aiming to get the same amount of bones broken as last year. Last year was a horrible year for me with broken bones. So
yeah, I'm feeling all of my previous orthopedic injuries as I age. They all rear their little nasty heads. All right, without further ado, I'm going to go through the results. I went through the result sheets on the NEMRR site. And what I'm going to try and do round 2 and on, I'm going to try and just take pictures of all the result sheets because it's going to be way easier than going through that whole big long list and try and get everybody on here. Sundays was pretty easy because
nobody raced.
Weren't a lot of people. There was a couple of races that the entire field was a DNS, so I made that a little bit easier. But as always with our NEMRR races, I was going to try. I'm going to try and play that. I don't know if this is going to work. I reached out to some of the photographers to send me some photos, and I've just got it kind of in a loop thing, so it'll give you something to look at as I read through this. But as always, we started off. They had the Super Street Heat Race, which I don't have any information on that. And then race 1, of course, is your rookie race, the mock race. Test 1, test 2, anybody that wants to go out and do their testing and stuff. And that took place. And then for race 2, we had the GTL amateur, expert and amateur. And in the expert class, there were 10 on the grid. We had Brett Geyer, Rick Doucette, and Adam Geyer for the top 3. And then found this unusual. There were no entries in the amateur GTL. So I found that kind of unusual. And then we also had the GT 500 combined, as Eli well knows. And there were 9 on the grid. And Renee Franco, Eli Block, and Adam Mascari. Yeah, I'm saying that right. Mascaro.
Yeah, Mascaro.
Mascaro. I can't even read my own writing. It's horrible. And then we move on to race 3. We had GTO expert and amateur. And then we had GTU expert and amateur. So the GTO expert, there were 6 on the grid. And David Dayon, Bill Coulihan, and I'm gonna hack his name up. Chris Amigi. Hopefully I'm saying that right. And then under amateur, there was only 1 on the grid. That was Jeremy O'Connor. And then for the GTU expert and amateur, on the expert side, we had Mr. Eli Block himself. and followed by
won
Paul
something.
Duval and Tyler Sweeney. They had 10 on the grid and 1 DNS. And then for the amateur side of it, we had Connor McCormick, Tony Wells, and Scott French. There were 6 on that grid. Hopefully I don't screw this up too bad, but so far so good. For race number 4, we had the Super Singles and the 300 Super Sport, both expert and amateur. On the Super Singles, expert, Gunnar Roulette, Michael Zoner, and Rick Breen. There were 10 on the grid, 1 DNS. And on the amateur side of it, we had Sean Parnell, Christopher Gerard, and Matthew Lilly. There were 5 on the grid. 300 Super Sport, expert amateur. On the expert side, we had Rick Doucette, Lucas Doucette, and Thomas Sands. And there were only 3 on the grid. So you were pretty much first, second, or third. And remember, these are your point standings for the season, folks. Round 1, these are your point standings for the season. So if you're looking at those championships, that's where it's at. And then 300 Super Sport Amateur, we had Brendan Moriarty, Fletcher Rood, and Brandon Coley. And there were 3 on the grid with 1 DNS. So again, the 300 Super Sport, there were 3 and 3. So race number 5, Formula 40 Unlimited, expert and amateur. On the expert side, we had Mr. Eric Wood, David Dayon, and Kevin Custer. There were a total of 7 on that grid. And for the amateur side of it, we had Matthew Lewis and good old John Bam Bam. And David LaCroix, we had 8 on the grid, 1 DNS. Then we had heavyweight super sport. Following them up, we expert and amateur. We had Harlan Hildebrand on the expert side, Ian Bean, and Brian, I can't read my writing.
Wardius.
Does that sound right?
Yep, Wardius.
And there were 10 on that grid with 1 DNS. And if I butcher your name, I apologize in advance, folks. So sorry. Let me restart the video so you get something to look at. And then on the amateur side,
introduce themselves so you know their names.
I'm sorry?
They should have to introduce themselves to
They
you.
should have to come on the live stream, exactly. And then on the amateur side, we had Troy Davis, David Com, and Nicholas Paganis. And there were 4 on that grid. Race number 6, lightweight superbike, expert amateur. That was the only class that was there. On the expert side, Mr. Brett Geyer, Adam Geyer, and Isaac Maycott. There were 10 on the grid. And on the amateur side, where I'm one of the DNSs, we had Douglas Cooper, Bruce Marshall. Oh, I am going to freaking destroy this name. Miroslav Drykus. Hopefully I didn't destroy it too bad. But there were 3 on the grid and 4 DNS. I was one of those 4, unfortunately. Race 7, we had a novice race, Formula 1 and Formula 3. We got a pretty good crop of actually, we got a huge crop of novices, it looks like, this year. So for Formula 1, we had first place Nathan Tower, followed by Joshua Stewart and Robert Newton. There were 7 on the grid with 1 DNS. Formula 3, a huge class. 17 on the grid with 1 DNS. We had Scott Cassidy, Glenn Wells, and Matthew Grillo. So we got a whole bunch of new amateurs. I love seeing that. Race number 8, lightweight GP, expert, Brett Geyer, Rick Doucette, and Isaac Maycott. There were 11 on that grid. And then on the amateur side of it, my buddy Fletcher Rood, and that's it. There was 1 on the grid with 2 DNS. So good job, Fletcher. You're leading the points. Race number 9, Super Street. I got to go back to my first page because I screwed this up when I was writing it all down. So Super Street Unlimited and lightweight. On the unlimited side, we had Randy Morissette, Rodolfo Donardi, and Charles Lynch. And then on the lightweight side, We had Tim Kitson, Mackenzie Crosby, and Ari Rawana. So looks like there was, I didn't write down. I don't know how many were on the grid. And where did I leave? Coming up on race number 10, Unlimited GP expert, Mr. Eric Wood. We had David Dayon and Bill Coulihan. There were 9 on the grid with 1 DNS. On the amateur side of that, we had Connor McCormick, Tony Wells, and Jeremy O'Connor with 9 bucks on the grid. Sundays are going to go a lot faster, trust me. Plus, we don't have as many races. Race 11, Formula 50, lightweight. On the expert side, Mr. Brett Geyer, Rick Doucette, and John Grush. Amateurs, and they had 7 on the grid. Amateur side, there were 4 on the grid, 2 DNS. Yep, that's me. We had Douglas Cooper, Bruce Marshall, and Matthew Lilly. The 500 Super Sport, which also ran in race 11. Expert side, Adam Mascaro, Renee Franco, Thomas Sands. And there were 8 on the grid and 1 disqualified. Oh, you were disqualified?
Yep.
Eli.
I was disqualified from almost 2 races.
All right.
Damn numbers.
You got it out of the way. You got it out of the way for round 1. On the amateur side, we got Henry Boslin, Kurt Alpha, and Brendan Moriarty. There were 5 on the grid with 1 DNS. Race number 12, another novice race. We got Formula 2 and Formula 4. For Formula 2, we got Nathan Tower. Second place, Joshua Stewart, and then Eric Epps. There were 6 on the grid, 1 DNS. Formula 4, another pretty good size class. They had 14 on the grid, 1 DNS. We got Scott Cassidy, Nathan Betancourt, and Glenn Wells. So that rounded out race 12. Race number 13, Unlimited Superbike. I'm sorry, is that Ultralight Superbike? It might be Ultralight Superbike.
Yep, it's ultralight.
Ultralight Superbike. I get UL, Unlimited, UL, Ultralight. I get it all confused.
And
On
then
the expert side,
we there for Unlimited GT.
We had Gunnar Roulette, Adam Mascaro, and Renee Franco. There were 15 on the grid. That was a big grid. On the expert side with 2 DNS, and then on the amateur side, they had 7 on the grid, 1 DNS. We got Henry Boslin, Sean Parnell, and Kurt Alpha. Race number 14, amateur middleweight DP. We had Matthew Lewis, John Bam Bam, and David LaCroix. There were 16 on the grid. And then last but not least, the Dash for Cash, the middleweight GP expert. And I think I wrote down the top 5 on that. 26 on the grid. 2 DNS. And Mr. Tyler Sweeney, I guess he snuck it out at the end. And second place was Eli Block. Third place, Paul Duval. Fourth place, Harlan Hildebrand. And fifth place, Ian Beam. So I wasn't there. I wish I was. I left right after riders meeting on Saturday because I was broken. And I'm going to take this off. I've seen that a couple of times, but so what give us play-by-play on the Dash for Cash there, Eli. Were you guys battling, or I wasn't there? I'm living vicariously.
I wish I could say we battled. I wish I don't have to tell the story again. But so, Scott obviously wasn't there, and me and my dad, we knew the weather wasn't great. My dad said, "I'm gonna give you signs. Once I give you the sign, do what Scott does: pull 3 good laps, make a gap, and then cruise it in home." So I did that. Pulled a 4.5, 5-second gap over the first 3 laps, and got the sign. And I didn't look back at my dad for the whole race until 3 to go. And then when I see 3 to go, when it's like 3 to go after the halfway flags, I look over at my dad. My dad's hands are like this. I'm like, fuck, what just happened? I look back and Sweeney's on my ass. I'm like, all right, this is not what I want to see. Sweeney passes me up in 3, and within the first lap, he gapped me by like 8 tenths. So I was like, wow, okay, that just happened. And just flipped the switch finally. It got me, I got a toe, and I started catching. I think I caught like 3 tenths on the second last lap I caught on him, and then on the last lap I caught another 6 tenths. And almost got him out of the last corner. I just gave it all she had. The thing was completely sideways out of the corner and just wallowing all the way down the straightaway. But I got up right up to his foot by the finish line and finished, what was it, like 0.052 behind him, I think the gap was at the finish line. So you know what, I will admit that was an amazing race, and I'm just happy. I still haven't won my first ever dash. I'm still looking for my first ever dash win. And if Sweeney wasn't there, I still wouldn't be satisfied. So luckily Sweeney was there to kind of keep me straight, and he beat me. So now it just makes me hungry for next round. So it was a really good race. I don't know what happened what was happening behind us. I think Paul finished 3rd. So, and then Harlan, I think, got 4th or 5th, right? So,
Harlan, Paul came in 3rd, Harlan came in 4th, and Ian came in 5th.
all right, yeah. So typical Harlan. You never know with him. He's always on the ball, or he's like, just like, you never know with him. Like he's such an amazing rider, but like he has his weekends where he's like either like battling and he's right behind you and you're like, wow, where did this Harlan come from? Or there's weekends like he's just a little bit more inconsistent. But this weekend, I think that with his new bike, and I think he's starting to get a lot more comfortable in the 600. So I know it's a newer bike for him. I mean, he started the year that last year, I think, was the first year I switched. No, 2 years ago he switched over, I think. So he's still trying to get used to it from a lightweight, and he's doing really good. Yeah, no, it's nice when you see Harlan higher up on the podium.
It sounded, and a couple of people told me about it, and it sounded like it was a fun race to watch. You guys always put on a good show with the Cash for Cash. That's all.
This weekend, next round is going to be the best one to watch, other than the Classic.
Yeah, I was going to ask how you feeling about that.
I can't wait. I'm excited. Once as John Grush called me and told me John Grush called me and said I gotta get my head out of my ass. So, which is true, and he's gonna help me. So, no, I'm super excited. It's gonna be great. I got a lot of my friends coming up from Moto America that are gonna race next round for round 2. I know Chavi's coming. Chavi Flores, Teague and Tyler Scott are coming. Blake Davis is coming. Joe Lamondri's coming. I don't know who else is coming, but Narbone's coming back. Greenwood's coming back. So it's going to be packed. And then little rumor has it that we're going to have qualifying on Saturday. So it's not an absolute shit show when you have 8 pros coming through a pack of experts.
Yeah.
So, qualifying on Saturday morning. It might be from the practice times we have, or we might have a qualifying session after. I don't know. I haven't heard anything more than that. And then also, I guess when it rained this week, I guess new pavement came out of the ground. It grew out of turn 10 to 12 at Loudon. So I guess that's something, with the grass grows with the rains. I guess pavement grows at Loudon. So I guess there's some fresh pavement there.
So it'll be new for a lot of us then.
Yeah, it's not going to be something crazy. As long as the patch in 10 doesn't do what it did last year, we'll be fine.
Yeah. Well, hopefully they got rid of those little rumbles in turn 11, because if you're like this much off of that inside line, you're in that.
Yeah, that's the main passing spot. It's scary.
And I think that's what happened to me. I think that's where I lost my front.
Yeah,
I got a little bit
most likely.
offline, and it shook, and the front end just said bye bye.
Yep.
So
And if you're not on like the throttle, like even if you're on the 2% throttle, it's gonna save you over that. Because like I learned that on the motard, like because that was my main passing spot in 11, going around the outside of people in 11. So I know those bumps very well. So it's either you can go 6 inches further and there's no bumps, or you're either on the inside of the curbing. So, and then even if you have to go that where you were, it's if you're on the throttle, it's gonna not affect you as much. On the street bike, it affects you a lot more, but compared to a dirt bike, it kind of took it a little bit better.
yeah. All right, Sunday's results. This won't take very long. This won't take long at all. It looks like first thing in the first couple of races, there were quite a few people, but after that, it kind of dropped off. So for race one, it starts off with the Formula 40 middleweight, Formula 40 lightweight. So Formula 40 middleweight expert, we had Thomas Hines, Vincente Frontenan.
You can just call him Sandbagger if you want.
Sandbagger? All right, we'll call him Sandbagger. And then, of course, we had Sergio there, third. There were 4 on the grid with 6 DNS. So a lot of DNS. Amateur side, David Leroy, Tony Wells, and Matthew Lewis. There were 3 on the grid and 3 DNS. So a lot of did not starts. And then Formula 40 lightweight expert, Anthony Frankel, John Donald, and Rick Doucette. There were 3 on the grid and 6 DNS. And then for the amateur side, there was only 1 on the grid, Bruce Marshall, and 4 DNS, myself being one of those. And then race 2 was a novice race. We had racer 1, racer 2, racer 3, racer 4, all 4 classes. Racer 1, Robert Newton and Zach McDonald. There were 2 on the grid and 1 DNS. Racer 2, Joshua Stewart, 1 on the grid, 1 DNS. And then racer 3, Matthew View, 1 on the grid and 1 DNS. And then racer 4, and Imbo, 1 on the grid, 4 DNS. So that was pretty easy. Race number 3, Unlimited Super Sport Amateur. And the only reason I'm saying amateur is because the expert, nobody showed up. They had 5 on the grid. Well, they had 5 entries.
5 DNS.
5 DNS. So on the amateur side, we had Tony Wells, David Combe, and Jeremy O'Connor, 4 on the grid and only 1 DNS. And then the middleweight superbike expert, had Tom Hines, Doucette, and Sergio, my man, 6 on the grid and 5 DNS. So there's some people that don't mind riding in the rain, but then there's a lot of people that don't want to ride in the rain.
I think there's a difference between riding in the rain and riding in 40-degree rain.
Yeah, no, I was about to say that because I
big difference.
Love the rain. I love it.
The rain is always the big equalizer too.
Yes, but when I bring a pet turtle, oh God.
You know, you get some of the fast guys that are really slow in the rain, and you get some of the guys that are mid-pack that are just screamers in the rain. I don't mind riding in the rain. I'm not fast in the rain, but I'll go out just to go out. Unfortunately, I had a very good excuse not to be there Sunday, so I didn't have to get cold and wet.
Yeah,
so,
it's a lot. Yeah, Loudon in the rain. I don't know if you've ever ridden Loudon in the rain. Loudon in the rain, every single rain day is different no matter what you have. The track's going to act different. The grips. Like, you can look at some of the times. I ran a 19 in the rain before on a motard. And then the weekend after, if it rains, I run 25s. Because it depends on what rain we get. If it could be the same exact rain, it might be at different times. So, but, I don't know, 40 degrees in the rain when you're wearing, like, I don't know. I'd rather not bring around my pet turtle with me in my suit, and I rather be warm and in 7 jackets.
I agree with you. I had a pretty good excuse not to be there, so I'll take it.
Yeah,
Race 4, we get the Motard, Expert, Amateur, and Ultralight Grand Prix.
Yep.
I guess combined. That sound right?
Yep.
And then also the 300 Superbike. So those were all crammed into race 4. On the Motard Expert, we had Andy Franco, followed by Adam Clark, and then Gunnar Ruette. There were 3 on the grid, 5 DNS. On the amateur side, we had Michael Gerard, Kyle Cleveland, and Christopher
Gerard.
Gerard.
Yep.
My writing sucks. I really got to get better at this. And there were only 3 on the grid, and all 3 were there. That's how it came out. On the Ultralight Grand Prix combined, Michael Zoner, Robert Taylor, and Ryan Embolt. 5 on the grid, 3 DNS. 300 Superbike Expert, Thomas Sands, Rick Doucette, Lucas Doucette, and there were only 3 on the grid. Amateur side, Fletcher Rude leading the points. 1 on the grid, 2 DNS. So it doesn't get any better than that. Race number 5, Unlimited Superbike Expert. Nobody showed up. So we had 3 DNS. Thunderbike. Got Expert and Amateur. On the Expert side, we got Mr. Tim Hogan taking the win. Adam Geyer and Isaac Maycott. 3 on the grid, 2 DNS. And then on the amateur side, we've got Russell Cooper, 1 on the grid and 1 DNS. I'm going to go see him this coming Saturday to get some suspension work done. Looking forward to going up to see him. Race number 6, Super Street. On the unlimited side, nobody showed up.
One person showed up for Super Street.
Yeah, but for the unlimited, the big bikes, nobody showed up.
Yes.
And the lightweight, 1 showed up.
Yeah, there was one person in that whole race. And I was very, very nervous about that because I wasn't even sure if she had rain tires. And so we did green, white checker.
Oh, was it the woman on the
McKenna Crosby.
500?
You got to give it to her. She took first place in the lightweight side. And
yeah, but I mean, anything can happen in a race, and you can fall down all by yourself. I mean, you guys have done it all. And I was just so afraid. And I'm like, if she is going to go out there and she's going to do this, I'm like, she's got to win. I'm like, she's got to finish this race. So we did green, white checker for her. And
she was a trooper. She was the only one on the grid.
Mackenzie's a he. Sorry. I thought somebody said it was a she.
Race number 7, middleweight super sport. On the expert side, we got Paul Duval, Thomas Hines, and Vincent Frontenac. 5 on the grid, 5 DNS. On the amateur side, we got Matthew Lewis and Tony Wells. The only 2 guys, and 4 DNS. So then we move on to race number 8, Super Twins combined. Oh, let's see here. We had Super Twins, Formula 60 lightweight combined, and Moto 3. So on Super Twins, we have Mr. Tim Hogan, James Rich, and Russell Cooper. There were 5 on the grid, 6 DNS. And then on the Formula 6 lightweight, which John keeps busting my chops about not entering, we had John Donald, Andre Fragones, and John Fragones. 5 on the grid and 2 DNS. Did I say it wrong?
That's one of my main sponsors, Andrea Fragonese.
So I didn't screw it up too bad.
Not too bad. No, it's pretty good.
And then from Moto 3, expert amateur. On the expert side, Adam Mascaro, Robert Taylor, and Ryan Embolt. There were 6 on the grid. And then on the amateur side, we had Jonathan McCluskey, the one on the grid, and 2 DNS. Race number 9, heavyweight superbike, expert and amateur. Expert side, we had Michael Lee, followed by Rick Doucette, and then Paul House.
Hosu.
I'm sorry?
Hosu.
Osu.
There were 4 on the grid, 4 DNS, and on the amateur side, Matthew Lewis and Tony Wells. And I think those are the only 2 entries. Race number 10, we had lightweight super sport amateur, 3 DNS, lightweight sportsman amateur, and expert. No, just amateur on both of those. Christopher Gerard, Kyle Cleveland, and Michael Gerard. And there were only 3 on the grid. Then we had starter 4 thrown in there with them. There was only 1 on the grid, Matthew Vigue, and 1 DNS, and then starter 4, Grant Embaugh, 1 on the grid, 4 DNS. And that was the theme, I guess, was the DNS. There's a lot to be said about entering early online, and then there's a lot to be said about waiting until you get there to see what the weather's going to be. If you don't race, I just take my chances. I always do it online. Race number 11, lightweight super sport expert. And then we had lightweight sportsman expert, along with 500 superbike expert and amateur. So for the lightweight super sport expert, we had Brian Foucher, Isaac and Billy Sane. There were 3 on the grid, 1 DNS. Lightweight sportsman expert, we had Michael Zoner and Adam Clark. There were 2 on the grid, 3 DNS. 500 superbike expert, Adam Mascaro, Robert Taylor, and Ryan Embolt. There were 6 on the grid, 2 DNS. And then on the amateur side, Jonathan McCluskey. There was only 1 on the grid with 4 DNS. And for our last final race of the wet, soggy 40-degree weather, race number 12, Unlimited Superbike Amateur, we had 2 on the grid, Jeremy O'Connor and David Conn. Middleweight Superbike Amateur, Tony Wells and Russell Cooper. There were 2 on the grid, 2 DNS. And then we had starter 1, starter 2. Starter 1, we had Robert Newton and Zach McDonald. Those were the only 2. And then starter 2, we just had 1 DNS, and that wrapped it. So that was those were the results for round 1. And like I said, I'm going to just take pictures of the sheets when they get posted at the track. It's going to make it a little bit easier. I wasn't there to get those, but it'll just make it easier for me if I decide to continue on with this. Oh, we got somebody here.
Steve,
Hey, man.
Steve, I missed you. I didn't even see you there.
Yeah, well, I was in the background for like 5 minutes. I figured you had all those important results to read, so.
No, I didn't even see you down there. Well, I just finished the race recap.
Yeah, I heard that.
Much of a recap, but
I stumbled upon this, so I figured, and then I saw that the link, so I said, you know what? I'll see if you pop me in. Like I said, my 3 favorite people.
I saw that.
Well, I like to do this every now and then, and I wasn't sure what I'm going to do. I know round 2, I'm giving away 2 VIP tickets for the Classic, so I'm going to be doing a live stream Saturday after the race is over in the pits. I'm going to set up a live stream. It still hurts when I cough. And I'm going to announce the winners. Hopefully it's somebody that's there. Kind of cool to just hand off the tickets to them. But, if they watch my video on the 388 Race channel, watch the giveaway, the ticket giveaway, and follow the instructions, they could win the tickets. So $140 value, and you could get it there. So and get that VIP seating for the Classic, which is going to be a pretty crazy thing.
Sounds like a good deal.
Yeah, I like my seating though for the Classic. I only had to buy it for $300.
I like my seat.
Your seat's pretty nice.
Yeah, I think Laura's the best seat in the house.
My days of running in the Classic are over, but I did have my days.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah.
Now I'm old, not almost as old as Craig, but not almost. He's got me beat by a little bit. But I know
my body feels like I'm getting up there.
yeah. But out of you three, I've known Laura the longest.
Yep.
Hey
Been a
Laura,
long time.
just really quick, if you guys can put up with this, but Laura will remember this guy's name. Do you remember Todd Hebert?
Yep.
His brother's still running their hair shop, barber shop in Rochester, New Hampshire.
Mm-hmm.
I stopped in there on a whim yesterday. I haven't seen the Ned in, oh man, probably 40 years. And just to check up on how some of the old Loudon dudes were doing.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of brings back a lot of memories, but
Hopefully they show up and come and be spectators. It'll be great to see a whole bunch of them.
well, I'm actually hoping that this that the racetrack sees what a draw we can get and how positive it could be, and if they lay down some nice new pavement, we can have a Moto America event here again, big time like we used to.
Yeah.
It's in the
That'd be
works.
cool.
It's in the works right now. They're talking
Mhm.
about doing a Moto America round no matter what, but they're trying to do the opposite of a Daytona. They're trying to do an opposite of a Coda, where Coda's only Superbike. So they're trying to do only everything other than Superbike and maybe Stock 1000 at Loudon
That
for the
makes sense.
Classic weekend. So they'll do like the Loudon Classic itself is the main race, but they'll have a 400 race, they'll have a Twins race, they'll have the Superstore race is the Classic at least, and then they might do a Stock 1000 race. Not 100% sure yet.
Sounds good.
Yeah, I know. I know that John's leaving us, and I talked a little bit about that, and I wish him all the best. I wish he wasn't leaving, but I mean, it is what it is. He's got to do what makes him happy. But I think he's leaving NEMRR in a very good position to expand with all the publicity that they're getting from this year's Classic. I think, and Noelle's still there. She does a lot of work, and I don't know what the dynamics are going to be.
I've talked to her 3 times today.
But I think John, on his departure, is leaving everything set up for success. I really believe that. And I haven't been associated with it very long. It's I only got my start last July, so I'm relatively new to everything. But I've been just impressed with everything that's been going on, and the whole family atmosphere and the way everybody treats everyone. And it's a great time. I enjoy it. It makes me kick myself for waiting so long to get back into it.
So much that goes on in between events and behind the scenes. So much.
Yeah, I can only imagine.
Yeah,
and
I had to work for like
with
12
John
minutes.
before, and I can't even fathom all the shit he has to go through.
It's a lot.
With all the juggling and all of that. But kudos to him. I really appreciate it. As we all do, I'm sure.
Yeah, I've had to work at least 20 minutes for NEMRR, and I was already tired by the end of it.
You did fine.
I spent 3 hours trying to get this scoreboard to work, and I had hope. It worked for like 3 minutes, and then it stopped.
Riding the bikes. riding the bike was the easy part.
Yeah, no, I got sent back down, and my punishment was to watch the Loudon Classic that I was suspended from on the freaking grid.
Well,
So,
even you go way back with AMAR and then LRS and now NEMRR and everything. Just everybody. There's always been a lot of work in the background, and knowing everybody that's been involved since the early 80s is just, they've all done such a great job, and to keep, and we just keep moving it forward. And but yeah, there's a lot of work in the background
a lot of it.
with everything,
Yeah, it's momentous amounts of work. There's no doubt.
Yeah, it's definitely it's a
so-
different environment for sure. I mean, when I go to the Moto America stuff, it's just it's like when you go to the pro races, it's nothing like being home. So
It's more
I mean,
commercialized.
yeah, and I mean, I'm excited to go back. Don't get me wrong. I'm super excited to get back to race Moto America this year because I took 1 year hiatus. But like, I do enjoy being home though. It is a whole community. I love it.
I mean, just for instance, I've had the people that knew I got injured on Friday in practice. I've had people reach out to me on Facebook or whatever, and even John called me on the phone just to see how I was doing. I think he called me Monday or Tuesday. He says, "Yeah, I like to call the guys that get hurt and make sure everything's good and if they need anything." It's just such a great family atmosphere. It's really.
When did I stop to talk to you, Craig? Was that Thursday or Friday? Because I didn't.
I think I talked to you either Friday or Saturday, but I had crashed on Friday in turn 11. I lost the front end.
Oh, see, I didn't know that till now.
Bruised my ribs, so I hung out until Saturday, and I waited till after the riders' meeting before I left.
Oh, okay.
And that's only because I was contemplating. I got the bike back together and through tech, but I waited until Saturday morning when I woke up and I went, "Yeah, I'm not going to be able to ride." So I hung around till after the riders' meeting and gimped around there and wondered a little bit and tucked my tail between my legs and went home. So, but looking forward to round 2.
Yep. Can't wait. It's going to be some fun. I'm just looking forward to the rest of the year. First round was rough. Get it out of the way. And then head down and hopefully bring home some money this year because I need it. I'm bleeding out money right now.
Well, I mean, you're up there in the rankings for the classic, my friend. Got a lot of faith in you.
Hopefully, I'm trying. I'm gonna put in the best effort I have, and I got high hopes for it. We'll see how this next round goes, and if we can get a solid setup, because that's all we need. All I need, for me to run 13.3s and not be comfortable at all on the bike and feel like I'm an absolute goon is a good stepping stone. Because once I get comfortable, it's head down and hopefully push and get some better times.
Here's an old saying: turn this down, turn this up.
Yep. And I've always been really good at that until I probably had the first time I've ever been spooked. I've never been spooked before in a crash in my whole entire life until Summit. So it's the longest not the longest I've been injured, but I've had broken bones that last long, but they're just broken bones. It's just right now with the back and you don't know what's going on, and it's been 5-6 weeks coming into this weekend, so it's a whole different mindset, and usually I'm pretty good with that, but got the first one out of the way, shaking all this bad energy off, and now round 2, and I got the more important rounds in July, and then my 2 other rounds later this year, so I'm excited. I'm really excited to get back on the bike.
It's fun watching you race.
Thank you.
It is. Eli's just watching him out there. He's keeps his head down. That's what you got to do.
That's what I try. I remember like 5 or 6 years ago, I always wanted to pass this guy in this Kawasaki that was in front of me when I was at Canaan, 250. Some guy named like Steve Nagura. So I remember that. That was always fun. I was in my first ever classroom was with Steve. My one and only classroom I ever took was with Steve. So
Well,
That was a fun time.
I tell guys my goal is to make everybody like way faster than I ever was, or whatever. You know, I mean, I wasn't the fastest guy. I was one of the fastest, but if I can pay it forward and think about it, since Eli, you kind of brought it up, but and Laura can speak to this, probably Craig too, but think about how many people that have road raced that you've known that are wicked fast, but they crash too much, and eventually that baggage gets into the back of your head because we're only human. And if you get hurt, and never mind the expenses from medical expenses, but just it just all that mental baggage, you know, it's just hard to get your head squared away again. So we need to try to make them everybody safe and fast, or fast and safe together, because then that way your career can be long, and then when your career is over, you can still walk, or
Yeah.
you know, and I mean that's a big that's an accomplishment too, you know.
Yep.
I mean, I have enough metal in this body now, some from just life's wear and tear, and then road race issues. So, you know, and then a lot of the young guys, and I get it, they just want to ride, they just want to rip. But we got to direct the energy sometimes, you know, and focus it. So. Yeah,
I started out with a deficit as far as orthopedics because I did 30 plus years in the Army. I spent 6 years jumping out of airplanes, and I'm all beat up. So this is actually this doesn't keep me up much.
Yeah.
Anyway, guys, hey, I appreciate everybody coming on tonight. And like I said, I said in the beginning what they can do for not joining in. But, you know, I'm going to try and do something. We're going to definitely do the live stream from the track at round 2 to give away the tickets. If anybody wants to stop by, wave at the camera, talk trash or whatever. I'm pitted there along the main drag, along one of the fences, with the guys that have got the hoopty lights and the disco ball. So you can't miss the pits, especially once it gets dark. The disco ball definitely lets you know where we're at. But stop by. I'll be doing a live, and I'm looking forward to seeing everybody out there for round 2.
I'm going to hop in here real quick if you don't mind. I'm going to give a shameless plug. After this stream, I'm going to go live. We're going to do iRacing at Loudon for the next 2 hours or so. So if anyone wants to hop in there.
Yeah. Well, Sam and them?
Yep, all of us are going to probably be on over the next few hours or so, or 2 hours or so. So we'll just be on if anyone wants to come in and see what we do to kind of help us get ready for the race rounds and just in general. So, shameless plug. I think my YouTube is probably Eli Block. So search that up. And
no, that's cool. That's on your YouTube, right?
Yeah, I think it's Eli Block. It might be. I'm not sure anymore.
Because I subscribe to it, so I should get a notification.
Kind of like
it's Eli Block Racing.
If you enjoyed the content, please subscribe to the channel. Give us a thumbs up, bell for notifications, and all that good stuff. Thank you all so much for coming on this evening. I really appreciate it. And with that, I'm going to close it out. So have yourself a great evening.
Peace. Thanks. Good to see you guys. Later.
Bye.